So, Mom,
Yes.
tell me. I have a bunch of questions for you about hooking,
Yep.
but could you tell me how you got started in hooking?
Yes. I didn't start hooking until I was in my 40s, and my first rug is dated 1978, and it probably took me 2 years to do it. I was working full time, so I'd say I probably started hooking around 75. Okay, so that would make me right in the early 40s. Up until then, I was an avid sewer and knitter and made all my clothes. In fact, Bob, when you were a baby, I made your little jammies, and I had a little buttonhole tool on my uh, Singer portable, which was, kind of basic Singer in those days. And I made all your little clothes, and you had bottoms buttoned onto the tops like they have the snaps now. But anyway, did a lot of sewing and did a lot of knitting, and the sweater I have on is one that I had knitted in those years, in the 70s and 80s. I still knit, and I did, knit right along, and also sewed. Love it. Well, how did I start hooking? Um, we lived in Milford and Massachusetts, and in those days there were a lot of mills in Milford and Uxbridge and that area. A lot of yarn mills, really fancy ones like Stanley Barocco. I picked up a ball of yarn in the shop yesterday, made by Stanley Barocco, and it says made in Italy, so they are still in business in importing wools. Well, anyway, my friend Lynn Lovell, we kind of shared families and kids, and they were all the same ages, and we'd go skiing together and that kind of thing. Well, Lynn and I would scour the woolen mills and pick up all kinds of wool, and I had bales of it up in the attics and in barrels and all kinds of things, and also the same thing with sewing fabrics. So I had quite a storehouse. And one of the times that our two families got together to go skiing at Killington, Lynn and Roy had a cabin up in Grafton, New Hampshire, right? Near Killington?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we were up there with the two families and skiing, and she said to me, "Oh, I've got something new to show you." And I said, "Oh, very interested." So she pulled out this rug that she had started to hook, because by then we were living in Danvers, so I didn't see Lynn on a daily basis like I had before. So I hadn't seen her for a while. She said, "I've got something new to show you." Pulled out a rug that she was working on hooking, and I'm saying to myself, I cannot get into something else. I would have to have a U-Haul, a truck come in the middle of the night if I died and get rid of what's in the attic before anybody saw all of this stuff from yarn and sewing fabric as it is. So anyway, I thought to myself, I can't do this. So one of the woolen mills, Door Mill, was close to where we were skiing. I guess it's Sunapee. And so she said, we have to go over to Door and look at some of the wool they have for hooking. And I thought to myself, well, no way am I getting involved in something else. But of course I could always pick up some nice wool to make a skirt or a suit or something like that. Okay, so yes, I'm excited about going to Door Mill. So we went, and they had all kinds of lovely woolens, and I remember buying something to make a skirt, and Lynn is still talking to me and jabbering to me about rug hooking. So I thought, okay, I picked up a little kit at Door. The wool was already cut, and Lynn said she'd show me how to hook, and it was a door stop with little pansies on it, and it was like fill in the blanks, it had numbers on it, and the wool was numbered. And I thought, okay, what harm can I do with a door stop? I'll do this to please Lynn, So we went back, and she had a little embroidery hoop, that you could put this tiny pattern in, and she was gave me one of her hooks and was showing me how to hook, and I said, oh, okay. So I started this, and the more I did it in the evening or two, the more I thought, this is interesting. And by the end of the week, I was all ready to start hooking, because she had a catalog of heirloom rugs with her. And Roy, her husband, had gone to Dartmouth with Bob Zeiser. His mother had drawn the patterns. Louise Zeiser was one of the great old hooking ladies, and she had a whole book of patterns, and she produced patterns and sold them. Well, she had long died, and her son, Bob Zeiser, a very successful accountant, continued printing his mother's patterns, and I guess in his garage, and selling them, to keep his mother's business and memory alive. So anyway, there was a whole catalog of her rugs, and by the time we left our skiing, I was ready to get on the phone as soon as I got home and order a catalog from Bob Zeiser, which I did. And that became, to me, in my teaching all day and coming home, I'd sit down and look at this catalog of patterns. It was like the kids in their Sears and Roebuck catalog at Christmas time. They'd sit and look at what they wanted to get, and I'd sit and look at what rugs looked really neat. But I had to find a teacher, so Essex Aggie was close to, it was a agricultural school, but they had all these evening programs for adults. Those were the good old days, and so Essex Aggie was about 5 minutes away, and I called them, and yes, they had a rug hooking teacher, but it was the middle of the semester, okay? They did it by, fall and spring semester, and I think it was probably around March, and I said, well, they said to me, you could start in the fall at the beginning of the new semester, so being an only child, I learned to whine, and I sort of whined and said, but I really wanted to do something now. And so the guy gave me her phone number, and he said, well, why don't you talk to the teacher? So I called, and Meredith answered, and I explained to her that I really, really wanted to start hooking. And Meredith, very sweet, they said, well, the class is pretty full, and you can start in September. So I whined again. And she said, well, why don't you just stop over and see what we're doing, okay? So by then, I had ordered a rug pattern from the Wish book, the heirloom patterns from Bob Zeiser. It was about 6 by 4 feet. No, small.
Wow.
But we had a big house with big wide pine floors. I wanted to make a rug.